Hey you guys, welcome back to the Topictantrum podcast. This is Mark, and I will be your host this week. So, first order of business, because it's business apparently, I wanted to let you guys know I recently got the podcast on iTunes and Google Play. So, make it a little bit easier, because recently I've been linking only straight to Podbean, which is how I host the podcast. But I did get approved on iTunes and Google Play. So if you go search it, Topic Tantrum, to the whole one person that's listening, feel free. It'll make it easier to, get it to your device or whatever you're listening on. If you can, please leave a review or a rating, depending if you like it or not, the show. I do have this also on YouTube. So if you're looking, to just kind of have YouTube streaming in the background or whatever, just search Topic Tantrum. And I do have the first 4 podcasts, and I probably will have this one, which is number 5, up soon. And frankly, I can't believe I made it to number 5. I'm not always the best at talking, especially alone in a room to myself. But hopefully, one person's listening. But yeah, so that is to make it a little bit easier for you. You can subscribe, you can do whatever you need to do to get the podcast. So this week, I'm kind of just doing a little bit of an update on just things I've been playing, things that have been going on. And recently, I've been playing Dragon Quest IX. I talked a little bit about it last week. But this week I've gotten a little bit further in the game. I played a couple hours. I went for an oil change on my car and some other maintenance that they had to do. So I had 3 hours to kill. I spent that time pretty much split between Dragon Quest and reading Percy Jackson. Dragon Quest, I'm getting a little bit further. I've gotten to the village of Zere, Z-E-R-E, in case anyone's played that game. I know I'm 7 years too late because I know the game came back in 2010. But I don't know why this RPG has resonated with me. I was actually about to give up on it because for some reason I got lost at some point and I just didn't feel like playing it. I think I was getting frustrated because there was a waypoint on the map that was telling me where to go, and it was completely wrong to where I was actually supposed to be finding the village of Zere. I was heading west, which it told me in the game, and it was completely different direction of north. But yeah, I've been playing that. I've gotten a little bit further into the game. It's picking up a little bit. The only thing that I noticed, I guess I haven't played an RPG in a while, but the only thing that I've noticed is I do not like the grinding. I noticed that every single new area, and I know that's it's the worst complaint that you can have, especially for RPGs, because I know JRPGs a lot of the time are just super grind heavy. But that tends to be the only part that I feel like I'm wasting time on. Is I guess we've gotten to a point where games nowadays are more about the flow of the game. So it's almost like you end up in the right area right when you're supposed to end up in the right area, depending on what level you are. Whereas in this game, you have to grind in order to move on to the next area. You move on to the next area, you start, killing a little bit of enemies and everything like that. But you have to kind of stick there for about, it could be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just depending on how powerful the enemies are, to the point where you don't feel like you're going to be dying every single battle. So I've gotten to that town, been grinding, and pretty much that's all I've been doing in that game. I like the story so far, but it has yet to pick up. Mostly it's kind of about finding this white knight for the princess that's in a castle and so on. But that's all I've really gotten to so far. So the story hasn't really unlocked yet, but I'm a couple hours into it or several hours into it. And right after I was at the dealership, I had 3 hours to kill. I was playing that for about an hour and a half, and then I switched over to Percy Jackson. And I know this is way old, but I guess this is how I'm experiencing it. But Dragon Quest IX came out in 2010. Percy Jackson came out way long ago. I think 2005, 2006. I've been reading that. I'm on the second book, The Sea of Monsters. So far, I did not enjoy it when I was reading the first book. But just lately, I guess I've just kind of gotten into it. I think it's easy reading. I don't really get too attached to everything, but the adventure is interesting enough to the point where I guess I'm not hating the book, but I'm enjoying it enough to keep continuing it. I don't know if you've ever felt like that about something, but I don't know. I guess I'm still keeping on reading it, and I think what it is, I do want to finish the series, but I'm not like, it doesn't make me feel the same way as like when I get super excited or passionate about something else. I think this is kind of just something that I'll read for the time being, just to kill time, or just to like, have a little easy adventure. That's what I've been reading. And then also recently I just got this book that has been released by Neil Gaiman called Norse Mythology. I think ever since I started getting into Percy Jackson for the Greek mythology, which I love. That's why I love, like I said last week, God of War. I'm not going to keep, repeating the same stuff all the time. But I've heard that he's a really good writer. I have not really read any of his books. I was never really like a huge reader, only when I was super young. But Norse Mythology just came out a little while ago, and I have yet to read it, though. I did order it from Amazon. It just came in the other day. But I have not had a chance to read it yet. But I'm super interested in that type of mythology because I have not learned anything about that. I've only heard of like Thor and Loki and Asgard, and that's just the only things I've ever heard. I've learned from like Marvel movies, and even then I barely watched some of the Marvel movies, so I don't know anything about Thor almost like at all. So that should be a pretty interesting read. I think it'll be interesting hearing it from his take, because a lot of people have told me that he writes in a fun way. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. As for the next thing, I don't know if any of you guys have played Kingdom Hearts. It's a huge series, of course, with all the Disney characters and so on. That is one of the games that I always wanted to play, but I just never got around to playing. And now that they're re-releasing all these like HD 1.5, 1.3, 8, 4, 2 remixes that they have on like the PlayStation 4 and everything like that, where they're including every single game that's pretty much ever been made for like the DS or the PSP and the PlayStation 2, 3, etc., whatever it came out on. I know they're ramping up to Kingdom Hearts 3, but I did own Kingdom Hearts 1 back in the day. I never finished it. I don't remember why I never finished it. I just, for some reason, did not finish it. But I played Kingdom Hearts. I'm about to be playing Kingdom Hearts. I have the 1.5 HD remix or something with the art book. It's like a collector's edition. But I was going to go back and play that on the PlayStation 3. And I know that they've been releasing these, I think it was like 2 different games on the PlayStation 4 for a little bit. That is one of the games. I think I got to Tarzan's Island at some point. But I have not ever gotten past that, I think. I'm trying to remember. My memory doesn't, I don't have the best memory all the time. I feel like you can tell me like something an hour ago and I'll probably forget it by now. Which probably doesn't make sense why I'm doing this all off the top of my head. But whatever. Anyways, so that's another game that I've been wanting to play. I think I tend, with games and movies and all that kind of stuff, I tend to focus on one thing at a time. I'm not that person that can do I can, but I just choose not to. I can't play let's say one game and then switch to another game and then switch to another game. I tend to stick to that one game, finish it, go on to the next thing, finish it, etc., etc. Same thing with books. I find myself, I don't know what it is, but I just keep focusing on that one book until I completely get done with it and then move on to the next thing. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What do you guys usually do? But for me, I tend to notice that I've been doing that. I feel like the stories are going to get mixed up. But with TV shows, I can be watching 7 different TV shows at once and I'm still good. I don't know why I do that with books and games, but I guess it requires more time than just an hour-long episode or so on. But that's a game that I probably is on my list that I want to be playing. I've heard such good things about it, but of course, I'll be playing it soon. So the next thing that I got pretty much on my little topic list that I used to record this is recently I went to a Revolving Sushi restaurant. And I don't know if you guys have ever gone to this restaurant, like these types of restaurants, but it's really cool. I've never personally gone to it. The first time that I've gone to it the first time I heard about it is actually, there's this YouTube channel called Simon and Martina. They live, I believe, in like Tokyo, Japan, and they constantly are like showing videos of different foods that they try, different places that they try. And I remember watching one video about sushi that I can probably put it in the show notes if you want to take a look at it. But essentially what it is that there's a conveyor belt that's rotating with all this sushi around it. Like, I guess the chefs make it and they kind of put it on the conveyor belt, and it's just circling the whole restaurant. It's up to you whenever you feel like it. I think they charge you about like $2.50 a plate or $2.25 a plate. Whenever you feel like it, you just go in, you take a plate off the conveyor belt, and they charge you based off the amount of plates that you've eaten. So they could have like, California roll, they could have like crunchy roll, they could have, salmon nigiri, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but they have essentially all these different types of desserts and sushi. And it's cool because they have these little lids on them, I guess, to protect against like bacteria or disease, so it's not just floating around in the air. But essentially you have to take the plate, lift it up, and pull it out in order to get the lid to unlock, essentially. But I thought it was really cool. I'd never seen that before. And if you want to, you can actually special order sushi on this little screen menu. And when you order it, it's really strange. There's another conveyor belt just above that, and it zooms it to the exact spot of where your table is sitting, and you just pick it up off the conveyor belt. And I just thought that was like the coolest thing. It's weird. It goes like, it speeds up, and then it just stops at the exact table that I guess they programmed it at. I find that so fascinating. I thought it was so cool the first time I went. I definitely want to go back to it though. But I think the catch of why I love that restaurant that we went to was when you get done, they give you these little green plates that they put all the sushi and everything on. You insert them into this little slot. I think, let's say you put in 5 plates, for example, that you've eaten sushi off of. And they give you like, about 2 to 3 pieces of sushi on each plate, depending on what you got. And you put it into the little slot, and after 5, a little animation plays on this TV just above your head, and it's like a little cartoon animation where he's like, this guy, Samurai, which is supposed to be the mascot of the restaurant or something, is fighting this giant squid. But if you really want to get the full experience of the restaurant, we were just going for a snack, you had to put in 15 plates, and what it is, it actually shows you the full battle of what's going on, and whether you win something or not. But you can actually win these little capsule toys that are on top of the TV. And I know I'm like all over the place, but essentially you win this capsule toy, but it can be like a little sticker thing, it can be like a little mini item. I mean, it could be a varied amount of different things, but that's kind of what the restaurant is. It's just kind of like this really interesting, I guess, take on sushi. It's a lot more fun going to that than just to sushi itself. And I have had sushi before, but it's mainly like they just serve you the sushi roll and that's it. This one was a lot more fun, and it's not that expensive, to be honest. It's like $2.25 a plate, which is not terrible. So I mean, it amounts to about $30-$40 if you probably were to go out to dinner. So yeah, you guys should check that out if you have one in your town. Another thing is, recently I've been buying coloring books. Like the coloring books for adults. Like, I'm just wandering into the child section. Give me your coloring books. But the coloring books for adults, I've been picking up just random ones recently. It's been like a little weird thing that I've been getting into, and they have some cool ones. Like IDW, the comic book publisher, made a comic book a coloring book called The Beauty of Horror, where it's essentially not comic book characters, but like zombies or the dead or like Dracula and all that kind of stuff. You actually get to color, because a lot of the coloring books, what you have to understand is that a lot of them are like for like stressful, relieving stress, and like they have these like, color patterns and all this kind of stuff that they have. But this was like a different take on it. Like, I have a Day of the Dead one. I have, there's this Beauty of Horror one that you can get. They have a couple special ones like The Lost Ocean. There's a whole bunch of them. But I suggest, actually, it's a cool thing. If you're into like coloring or just like arts and crafts type stuff, check them out. You can get them from like Barnes and Nobles. I mean, half-price books. There's a whole bunch of different places. And I think that is all the topics that I have Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm sorry this episode was so short, but I kind of just sped through this list. I don't know if you enjoyed it, but we'll see. Either way, if you are listening to this, feel free to rate me on iTunes, review. I guess this is kind of like a little mini episode. Anyways, until I guess next week, I'll see you guys later. Bye.